Hello, grade 10. So here we are about to take up 5.7. Hopefully you had a chance to try it. And certainly you should have done the several podcasts on the circle theorems and followed along with your packet. So if you've done those, then hopefully this was not too difficult for you. Okay, where do we start? I'm going to start with W. You don't have to start in the order that they ask you for. It depends kind of how you see it. But since I see that these lines are the same, I know that this is going to be an isosceles triangle. So we're going to find W first, okay? So we're going to do 180 minus 64, and that's going to give us 116. So I'm dealing with triangle ABD right now, yeah? And then you're going to take the 116 and you're going to, hopefully you already did that. I'm going to divide it by 2, and then you have 58 degrees. So W is 58. All right, let's move on. What are we going to do next? Well, hopefully from the podcast, you remember angles on the same arc theorem. Do you remember how we were moving it around in autograph? And if you move the x around, eventually it's just going to lie right on top of 64, right? The theorem said that the angles that are on the same arc are the same size. So therefore, x is 64 degrees. Ta-da! All right, now this is where I got a little bit stuck before, and I actually started this podcast over because I wasn't sure where to go next. And the reason is because I didn't read the information, but it says here AOC is the diameter. That's really good news for us. So what it's missing now is a little O here. Without it, you can't use, do you remember the theorem with the diameter angle, that it's 90 degrees, right? The one that's linked with the diameter, but without labeling, you can't assume that this is actually going through the center. But since they told us then, we now know that. So that's really good news because we know that W, we found before, is 58. Actually, we don't even need that. For Y, we now know that these two together, therefore, also make up 90 degrees, right? Because we can say that X plus Y plus 90 will give us the total angles in a triangle, which is 180. And since x is 64, you can just do 90 minus 64 and get y to be 26. So if you actually got that to be 26, give yourselves a mark and a little pat on the back. Okay, last one. Couple of ways that you can do this. So we know that this is now 26. And I'm just going to switch color one more time. Okay, so we now know, do you remember the theorem where tangent radius makes 90 degrees? Okay, hopefully. So that means since this little bit is 26, this outer bit is going to be 90 minus 26. So that's going to be 64 degrees. You remember the other theorem was the length of tangents, right? From a point, the tangents to a circle will be the same length. And if they're the same length, then again, we have another isosceles here, which means that this is also going to be 64. Once you know this is 64, in order for us to find Z, we're just going to do 180 minus twice 64, and our Z is going to be 52. Now, just a little check. The cool thing with these triangle theorems, at least in my modest opinion, is that you can often do it in more than one way. Do you remember that the last theorem that you had was that alternate segment theorem, alternate angle theorem, and that was the one that where the inside would be the same as the outside? And check it out. We did indeed arrive at them both being 64. All right, next question coming right up.